How did like the name of Mental Health Militia even come about? Was it something you two were talking about?
How did we come up with that?
Well,
At the start, it was Mental Health Warriors.
Mental Health Warriors.
Yeah. And we actually submitted it to the accountant, and he come back and said that name's taken.
Really?
Yeah. So we're like, oh shit, what the hell do we do next? And then we threw around some stupid ideas, and then the Mental Health Militia. I think because there used to be that group. It was big back in the early 90s. What were they called? The Metal Militia, a band or something.
not sure.
It had just come
Before my time.
just sort of come to us, and the Mental Health Militia, and put sort of that bike club spin on it.
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool. And like, how did you come into the picture of Mental Health Militia?
Well, being a director of Clean Off Geelong with Troy, we were talking about it for years before the militia even came about. Just saying, how can we help more people? And yeah, so we're talking about it for years, then got on with some of Troy's mates.
And given that, like, I've got the bikey background, and I've always had a theory about motorbikes. If anyone's ever really lonely or ever struggling to make friends or ever bored, they're struggling, might buy a motorbike. You will never, ever not have something to do. If you've got a motorbike, you can go like all the pages on Facebook, the bike rider groups, and you can look up every Saturday or Sunday. I guarantee you there's a post. Does anybody want to go for a ride today? Hey, me and this group, me and this social group, me and this other group, we're all going for a ride to the pub to get a counter meal or whatever. So all of a sudden you've got connection in your life. So if you've been lacking connection, which is a major thing when you're talking about mental health, that's right there. And then the other thing it does is there's no two bikes that are ever the same. So everybody makes the bike their own. So all of a sudden you've got some creativity as well. And not only that, that creates meaning and purpose. Now all of a sudden you've got this group, now you've got something that's a hobby that you can spend some time on, and it just creates this whole, like, I don't know, what would you call it? The holy trilogy of mental health. I don't know if that's a thing, but it should be.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so if you get a motorbike, you're always going to have somebody to ride with. You're always going to have something to do. You're always going to have a hobby, and you're always going to have a passion. And all those things together make hope. So
that's it. And it's really tying together all the things you guys do at Complete Health, as well as, both of your backgrounds, which would be interesting to hear about. Like, tell me a little about your background and I suppose how you came to Complete and how that all sort of ties into the militia.
Yeah, so a bit about me. I was a troubled student at school. So for the last whole year, weekly basis, I had a teacher say to me, you should probably drop out of school and get an apprenticeship, just because I was not a good student. So that's when I started chefing. Most people know when it comes to chefing, you lose your social life. A lot of bad habits come from it, just to deal with it, which is a lot of drugs or alcohol, which alcohol got me. So I became an alcoholic for quite a few years. I hit a low point during COVID and went through 8 bottles in a week. And I was very angry back then too. So I made everyone's lives a misery. So woke up one morning thinking, if I die today, people will celebrate I'm gone, just because I've made their lives hell. So then started that day, put down the bottle and studied mental health. So start studying, then I met Troy. I joined his men's mental health group, doing workouts in the mornings. And just through the progress, Troy saw something in me and grew to general manager, then director.
Do you know what's interesting?
What's that?
I've known you for a long time. Right? I used to be a dish pig back when you were a chef. And from the outside, I didn't know anything was going on. So that's what blows me away. Like, coming full circle now, seeing all these years later, I didn't see anything going on. I knew that chefing was a high-stress environment. I wouldn't have even asked to be like, hey, mate, are you okay? I just thought, it's another busy night in the room, in the kitchen. But it goes to show, like, anyone can have something going on.
Well, yeah, talk about a high-stress environment. I remember you telling me about getting slapped.
When I was apprentice, yeah. Yeah.
Not doing your job wrong.
No, it was just one day I rocked up and just generally tired. And chef goes, what's wrong? I'm just tired. So she put her hand on one cheek and slap right across the face. She says, "Wake the fuck up." And trust me, I was bounced off the walls then. I was wide awake and got the job done.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. To me, I thought that was normal. I was 16.
Well, that's it. But what's amazing about that is every time we're looking for more support workers, we always get chef supply. Always wanting to change careers. Wow. I think mental health is chefing is just one of those industries where there's massive mental health issues. I guess having split shifts and having to work weekends, so you're not with, you see everyone else living their best lives where you're also working. That can take its toll as well.
100%. The hardest part was getting weekly invites to gatherings or just catch up with mates and all that. And then when you say no so many times, they just stop inviting.
And then you lose that connection.
That's it.
And given the nature of the industry already, you're working all the prime times as a chef, right? You're working when everyone wants to go out, when everyone wants to, go out for dinners. You're working the weekends most of the time. So it's hard.
Yeah. I remember one New Year's Eve, I finished 11:30 at night and I was working at a hotel, which I'm not going to say which, and I wanted to have a shower, but there's no rooms available for it. So the manager just gave me the keys to the pool. So I jumped in the pool, swam around for a little bit, had a little chlorine pool shower. Jumped out, got dressed, and I was ready to go out and party.
There you go.
So I think drinking's a massive thing. Every chef I've met has always had a bottle under the counter.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that. And I think it becomes sort of part of your identity, which is another reason that I forgot bikes are so cool, because it helps give you a bit of identity. And that's one of the things that attracts people to motorbike clubs. But I think if you ever ask somebody that's a chef what they do, who they are, they're always like, "I'm a chef." And like, well, you're not a chef. You do being a chef, but you are not a chef. You know what I mean? So it's that identity. And I think if you attach yourself to things like that, if you attach yourself to being a chef, but you're going to drink because that's what chefs do.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's similar with so many industries, right? Like, look at tradies. How many tradies do I'm not bashing them at all. But how many tradies come home? It's like, I'm going to have a few beers. And it's tied to similar industries where people just connect themselves with these things. It's not bad. It's not, it's not great either. But I mean, you can look at the effects that it can have. So
I remember back when I was way young, before I ever was on drugs or anything like that. I used to think cocaine was for lawyers and politicians and stuff like that. Every tradie out of the world now knows beers. It's become part of that identity, and that the culture becomes part of that culture.
So it'd be interesting too to hear sort of your background. I know you've got a very, very
all over the place background.
Interesting background. So I mean, start us off. Like, where did you first start? I suppose, what pushed you, I suppose, into complete health?
I'd always been fascinated with psychology. Always. My pattern of behaviour was dating toxic women over and over and over, the same sort of person over and over and over. So I was always studying to try and, help my partner get better, to help our relationship, instead of looking in the right direction and looking at myself and saying, what part am I playing in this? So I started studying heaps of psychology, reading heaps of books and all this sort of stuff. And then I ended up joining a bike club, then sort of progressed up through different clubs, like from social club to motorbike club to 1% club. And then while I was going through all of that, I met somebody very toxic, and then I injured myself at work, and then I lost my brother and a couple of other things. And all these things happened in a very short space of time. And when I got injured, they said I'd never walk properly again. I'd never lift over 2 kilos again. And my whole life has just been kickboxing, motorbikes and gym. So I was like, holy shit, my life's pretty much over. And started spiraling. I was in the perfect environment to do that. It was just sex, drugs and rock and roll, until I got to a point where I didn't even want to leave the house. And, the club was actually sending people over every day to check on me and stuff like that. And I ended up going to see a psychiatrist. Work cover forced me to go see a psychiatrist. And I got diagnosed with a couple of things. And then they sent me to a psychologist. And I thought I was going to go in there and manipulate the system and get a big payout and all this sort of stuff. I was bawling my eyes out in 20 minutes. Just absolute bawling my eyes out. And from there, I went into intense therapy. It was once, sometimes twice a week for the first 3 years. And it was just the best thing that I ever did. And during that time, I sort of grew up and, started realizing a lot of things about myself. So I started studying counseling, and it's something that I'd always wanted to do. I basically became a trauma nerd. I had a nervous breakdown and I had all these things exit my life, and I needed to fill that void with something. So the stress made me sleep like 1 hour a day, and the anxiety, and I spent 23 hours a day just studying trauma. That's all I did. That's how I filled the void. And then eventually I was like, I've got to do something with this. Started studying counselling. At the end of my counselling course, there was a knock on the door from a business next door, and they offered me a traineeship in alcohol and other drugs. So I went to that and started doing support work. While I was doing that, I started teaching kickboxing and mixing counselling and kickboxing together. I called it exercise psychotherapy. And then that business just boomed. Absolutely boomed. And then I met Michael. Michael come on. And then, just two people that are pretty good at talking, I suppose.
Yeah, we are today.
That's it, yeah.
How good's that, though, that you can bring together all of the passions, that you've got, the kickboxing, the gym, your own background, and like you said too, that community piece that the clubhouse provided. Is that, I suppose, a key thing for the Mental Health Militia that's coming up?
It is. So there's this, we used to joke about this while I was in the club. We used to say the clubhouse knows what you need. It's for people who are listening or watching and don't understand what I'm talking about. If you've ever seen Superman, it is your fortress of solitude. It is a place you can go where you're safe. It's like Cheers. Everybody knows your name. You're not out in town going to get glass from behind or anything like that. You're in the safest place you ever have been. You're never getting judged. You can 100% be yourself, and it's yours. You can live there if you like. And it just creates this safe space, I guess. It's basically a men's shed, just for men that are a little bit wild, I suppose. And I try and bring that back into the militia, because the big problem is I've actually done a video that went pretty well on how when you leave a motorcycle club, your phone goes from being red hot. Like my phone used to go flat twice a day. But the day you leave, and I mean literally the day you leave, you do not get a message. You do not get a phone call. You're unfriended by, half the club in an instant.
Wow.
Yep.
Why is that?
It's just, you're not in there anymore. So, because when you join a club, they say it's family, work, and then club. However, when you've got people joining that are lacking in identity, you just become that. It becomes you everything. It's all encompassing. And I thought, how can we sort of have that same vibe with the militia? And I was like, well, we'll sort of structure it similar. It's not a club, but it's similar, so that when people leave a club and their phones are dead quiet, they've got this huge void to fill, well, they can come hang out with us. They can go on rides. And instead of just running out and joining another club, like, I don't know, 90% of people do when they leave a club, they just go join another one, because that's the only thing they can do, because they can't stand the quiet. So we go on rides and we give back. So we have our free barbecues once a month. So not only are they filling the void, they're filling it with healthy connections and healthy meaning. So when we're having these free barbecues, they're helping the community. So all of a sudden they're feeling a sense of pride, a sense of achievement, a sense of giving back, and this builds up their confidence, their self-esteem, and that just seeps through the rest of their lives.
And is it just for bikies?
No, not at all. Yeah, it's just sort of how we promote it, so that we can. I mean, it's only been a year and a half or 2 years since I shaved my big plaited mohawk off and all that, because I always thought it was good to have that, that tough guy bikie image, because that shows that if guys like us can cry and talk about emotions, then other guys can as well. So it's only been of late we're trying to look a little bit more professional, but we try and just keep that image, just to show normal people, so to speak, that if people like us can talk about this shit, then anybody can.
That's it. So I suppose it's anyone in that sort of lonely environment, I suppose, that doesn't have a solid community around them, whether it be a solid group of mates.
Yep.
Or even just, for me personally, I know I changed my environment not too long ago, and I've seen my life change.
Yeah. What made you do that?
I was, there's always a saying of, you are the sum of the 5 people we hang around.
Yeah.
And I looked at the people I was hanging around at the time, nothing against them, but they just weren't the people that I wanted to be. If I put them into one person, it's not who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I changed my environment, and life's been on the up ever since.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, you don't know you need it until you have a peak elsewhere.
Keep talking to people at the moment, because people reach out to me all the time on the platform, especially on TikTok, funnily enough. And I try and keep telling people, start making the changes now before you hit rock bottom, but nobody ever does. It's like a lot of people have to hit that rock bottom to go back up. It's one of those funny things that, you know, there's a famous saying, you know, you will only change when your desire to change is more than it is to stay the same. And it's just so true. If people get complacent and they start fearing what's out there, what's going to happen if they change, so they don't do anything, and they just stay exactly where they are. But the problem is, on that curve, it's called the stress model. If you stay here, you slowly go backwards. If you stay in the comfort zone, that is where dreams go to die. It literally is, because you will slip back down the curve and go into depression. It's just how it is. You've got the growth zone and then the comfort zone.
Yep.
You're supposed to go comfort zone, out into the growth zone, try and learn some shit, do some cool stuff, and then eventually you'll start getting towards burnout. Then you go back in the comfort zone, chill out, relax, regain yourself, and then you jump back into the growth zone again. But what a lot of people do is they stay in the comfort zone too long, and then they slide down this slippery slope of depression and everything, because they're not achieving anything. They've got no goals and all this type of stuff. So I always try and explain that to people. Think of where you are on that graph, so that way you've got a visual representation, so you know what you need to do. Because if you get to here, you're going to end up down here.
That's
and you don't want to be there. Stop yourself to climb back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made you end up coming and helping out with the militia and offering your services to us?
Well,
it's a pretty cool thing.
It's interesting. I've known you a long time, right? And we've done a few things across the years. I mean, you got us out, it would have been nearly 2 years ago.
Yeah,
one of the first rides,
Yeah.
I reckon.
Yeah.
But
yeah, big 2 years.
2 years. I had to look back at the photos. It works much better now, I hope. But yeah, we've done a lot of things together. And I've got a lot of time for, you know, charities, especially anything in sort of the men's mental health space as well. There are a few different groups doing it, and I think there just needs to be more.
Yeah.
So we're quite fortunate that we've got this space, we've got the studio, we've got a team behind us now, and we're really ripe and ready to, you know, sink our teeth into something. And we're keen to sink our teeth into this.
Yeah.
And really, you know, develop it into something quite cool.
Yeah.
And at least if we can spread the message and, you know, change one person's direction, that's all we need to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And what made you ended up taking this path to like agreeing to come into the militia stuff when you could have just stayed?
Well, the main reason why I started doing the sport work was to help people and just give back. And doing the militia means I can help more people.
Yeah. Because it's not like we weren't busy enough.
Yeah.
Like just doing complete ultra long, and I'm sure you're busy as well doing your other things.
That's the old saying, though. You want something done, ask a busy person.
Yeah,
That's it.
I think you reach a point when you're being in a certain place, and how am I going to phrase this? There's stages of life, and you get into a part where you do have some free time to be creative, because you've got your own business, but it's doing its thing in the background, and all of a sudden now you're like, how do I give back? And we call this the legacy phase. So how am I going to create change and stuff like that to make myself feel good? I can look back on my past and go, you know what, I did some cool shit. And it's when you start doing, like, having your own business and then giving yourself the space to be creative, I think that's when it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then you meet people who have got all different skill sets, like all three of us are totally different, you know, and then they all just gel.
100%. Would you like to talk and explain a little bit about what, I suppose, events are part of the Mental Health Militia? Because I suppose we've got one main event that happens every year, and then we've got sort of monthly stuff as well.
Yeah, so the main event is a huge motorbike ride, which Troy can touch base with, because I do stuff behind the scenes, like I cook all the free barbecues up. and feed everyone. But for the monthly barbecues, we've been hosting for people anyone to come along, get a free snack, some onions. We're looking at doing some collabs with other companies at the moment, and so then they can bring all their friends as well. So just to get more awareness out and, well, give more out to people, more people.
And I suppose for you, what are we trying to achieve with the barbecues? Is it a safe place for people?
Safe place for people to come to. Because I generally have some of my Complete Health Geelong team come with me as well. So there's mental health workers there. So anyone that is having a rough time and needs someone to talk to, there's people there to help.
It's cool.
It's also a place for, in everybody's healing stage, they get to a point where they need to give back. They need to volunteer somewhere. It just really helps with their growth. It gives us a platform to be able to say to anyone who's doing support work with us, do any of you guys want to come and help cook the barbecue and help feed 300 people for the day? And then they feel like they've done something. They feel like they've achieved something. And this was not the intention of the ride at all to start. So when we first did the ride, we were just joking around and we thought, you know what, we should just have a barbecue down the beach, ride down our bikes, tell some mates about it, and see what happens. We thought there'd be 15 or 20 of us, and the first ride we had 300. And we didn't ask for donations. We didn't ask for anything. We just had everything. Well, we had the food donated. We just donated our time, and a few other services donated their time as well. And when we were handing out the sausages, people kept trying to give us money. And we're like, we're not asking for donations. And then they were just like putting it down and just saying, take it, take it. We're like, we're not accepting donation. So the whole day we weren't accepting donations, and we still got $700. I think it was $790 or something.
Yeah.
And then after the day, we were all sort of sitting back, debriefing, unwinding. And we're like, why don't we do something with this? I was like, well, why don't next year we ask for donations? And out of those donations, why don't we offer sponsorships for people that can't afford to get help because they don't meet the requirements for disability or NDIS, or they have gotten the eligibility for NDIS and disability, but they don't know how to apply for it. Why don't we get them that help and try and bridge the gap? So we'll pay for them, because when somebody walks in through the front door, you need to help them then. If you turn them away and say, go and get your funding and then come back, you never see them again. So we're like, let's bridge that gap for them. So people, we run another sponsorship too. We also sponsor All Abilities cricket team coming up. What else we sponsored? We sponsored No. Abilities Pony Club once.
Yeah.
All Abilities Primary School. So we'll help out with things like that too. So with big sponsorships, we've got a guy boxing in a wheelchair very soon, so we're sponsoring that too.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We said we'd never ever have fighters in our gym, and part of his goals is to fight, and he's in a wheelchair, so we're like, well, we have to. That's part of his goals.
That's it.
So all the money goes to help people. Helps us give sponsorships to people. And at the moment, we've got a men's group that is pretty much solely running on these sponsorships with guys that have walked through the door, said they wanted help, and we're like, cool. Tell you what, you come have a free trial, come to all the classes, don't miss a session. And during this trial, you need to accomplish A, B, and C to show us that you can, because you're getting free service, and it makes them accountable. Anything free usually gets wasted, so put a bit of accountability to it. All the guys we've got now, they do all their homework. So it's basically a behaviour change program, except they want to be there, they want to earn it, and it brings it back to that bike club scenario. I guess you have to earn your patch. And so they get sponsored, and then they feel like they've earned it. They feel like they're giving back because they can come and help out at our charity barbecues.
Yep.
And they're getting sponsored to do their help, and we give them a step-by-step process on what appointments they need to attend, and we hold them accountable. If they come to a session, and it hasn't happened yet, but we tell them that if we give you something to do, like you need to make an appointment at the GP and get your mental health clear, they've all done it. But if they didn't do it, we're like, if you come in on Wednesday and you haven't done it, that's 4 minutes of burpees.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And all these classes, they all involve gratitude practices, mindfulness practices, elements of yoga and kickboxing. So you've got all these, tough guys in there at the end of a session doing some mindfulness and stuff like that. And then we signed some board with some things that we're grateful for. And it really works. It really gets results. And we wouldn't have the group we've got now if it wasn't for the militia sponsoring these guys. And these guys wouldn't have gotten the help. So and that's all just from that one ride a year.
And I suppose, how can businesses get involved, or how can people actually get involved in helping or donating to the militia, I suppose, from just the general consumer market, and how can businesses actually get involved?
We pretty much do a big raffle every year, and we like to make things as easy as possible because we're busy enough. So we ask for people to donate either products or services, and then that all goes on the table into this huge raffle. I think last year, 40 people won a prize. So it's basically just everybody buys tickets for the raffle, and then we all just stand there, and we have a guest speaker as well. So whoever's doing the talk on the day, talking about trauma usually, resilience, something like that, they will stand there and host this raffle as well. And it's just first come, first serve. So you pull a number out, they get the first pick of the prizes, and we just keep pulling numbers out until the prizes are gone. And we just make money off those tickets.
How good's that?
Yep. And then all that pays for the sponsorships. And that's the only fundraising we do throughout the year.
Yeah, wow.
Some companies do donate money and stuff, but yeah, we're not really good at that side of the business yet because it's really only our second year asking for donations.
Yeah. And I think that's a testament to like the fundamentals of this, right? That it's you're on the great path, and with the right people, which we're going to get more and more involved, this is going to be great, and it's going to grow very fast.
Yeah, well, we've always had the saying, even with Complete Out Geelong, the saying has always been collaboration over competition.
Yeah.
So even though we're a service provider for the NDIS, we invite as many NDIS providers as possible, because I'm sure they offer something that we don't, or maybe they've got a worker that's better suited to one of our participants than ours. And that's what it's all about. So that's what we just wish everybody was like that, and it would just make it better. So there's actually a lot of men's groups in Geelong. So we're in talks with them at the moment about actually creating a calendar. So that way they can be like, okay, Complete Out Geelong runs the men's group Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings at these times. Right Mate, for an example, another great organisation. They do walks on a Saturday morning and you get a coffee. Well, we've sponsored them as well a couple of times.
Yeah.
So then it would be, our program guys can attend plus their program. And then Tim Odette does men's yoga. So then his would be up here. Then Sacred Scrabble does like sound baths and ice baths and all of that sort of stuff, which we definitely don't.
Yep.
Which we went and did it. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So then, theirs would slot in there. So anything that does any sort of men's mental health, we wanted to create this big calendar that anybody can attend. And then hopefully the goal is the Mental Health Militia will hopefully subsidise people to go to it. Like, half the entry fee to some of these groups.
That's fantastic.
That would be cool. Yeah. But we just need to get better at marketing, or have people like yourself come on that can help us do it better.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what sort of traction we can get, what awareness we can spread.
Yeah. Well, I'm already getting people message me. Like I was saying earlier, we've had 2 from Queensland, 1 from Tasmania, a couple from Sydney, messages. One from Karratha in the mines, saying that there's nothing up there for them, and they all ride, and they're all like, would you ever consider us starting a version up? So once we get our back end done properly, we can look at doing that stuff.
That's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. And there's another group, Mr. Perfect. They do barbecues and stuff as well. So we've reached out to them to see if they want to collaborate on a barbecue every now and again. Because that's what it's all about, collaboration.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, if people, more and more people that put their skill sets together, it's just more people are going to get reached.
Yeah,
so
100%. And we're just looking around your facility here. This looks like a pretty cool place.
Yeah, it's not bad. We've done well here at Geelong Photo Studio.
Yeah.
It's definitely gone through its journey. This room alone, this used to just be a sit-stand desk with a Blue Yeti and a Logitech Biro, really crappy webcam, run on like an old 2002 Mac, and it's come a long way.
Yeah. The other day when you said my podcast setup was good at home, that was a Yeti.
The Yetis are great.
Yeah.
They're great for like one person, but when you've got setups like this, this room changes probably twice a day.
Yeah.
So it's got to be quite diverse. So yeah, we're very fortunate in here what we can create.
Yeah. That's an awesome setup. And yeah, the cat's in here. That's cool.
Yeah, they use the studio at the back.
Yeah.
So they have all their own creative team and stuff like that come in and actually do all the capture. But we're fortunate enough that they've come across our space. They use it, which is really cool.
So you have come a long way as well since just doing the opening 2 years ago.
I mean, I'm not very open about it, but you know, this is what this whole thing's about, right? I had quite a crap journey early on. I had a past that I did some things, and it set me on about 2 years that I lost.
Yeah.
From about 18 to 20. And I'm still a young chap. I'm only 24.
Yeah.
So I've come a long way. I couldn't walk down the corridor of my own school because I thought there were people saying things all down the corridor. And I could barely have a conversation with people. I could barely be in a room with more than one person. And I just started with the basics. I started working for my cousin early on. And this lesson, I've never told him this, but this is the most important lesson I've ever learned in my life. I spent a lot of time with him, and he'd always look me direct in the eye. And I found it so off-putting to begin with. He'd always just look me in the eye when he's speaking to me. I was like, that is too much. And then I started implementing it myself and started really getting past the nerves of looking at someone, and absolutely changed what I was taking in from people and what they would actually tell me. Not that I wasn't interested. I was always interested, but this just direct looking at someone's in the eye changed so much for me. So yeah, that's sort of my journey, and very quickly didn't have much support, unfortunately, getting through it, but sort of just pushed my way through, and I suppose here I am. Yeah, which is good. Wouldn't recommend anyone just push through, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here, to build a community. So that
eye thing, that's something I've always struggled with. And I remember my sister said it to me one day. It was her counsellor said to her, "How do you feel when I stare in your eyes like this, like just like that?" And then my sister did it to me, and I was just like, "That is so weird."
It's difficult.
Arnold Schwarzenegger once said, I got told Arnold Schwarzenegger said it, but I've never seen the actual quote, so maybe he didn't, but I picture it as something that he would say. He said no matter where he goes, he never looks at the ground because it always makes him appear confident. You should be confident where you're putting your own feet. And just by never looking down, it just appears confident. And
Interesting.
I guess that they always say that, not, fake it till you make it. But if you sit up and smile, it does change how you feel.
Tony Robbins does an interesting thing that the difference between being good and exceptional is 5 millimeters or 10 millimeters.
Yeah.
And all it is like, someone that stands like this, they're good. Someone who just stands like that and, that slight bit of posture, that's all it takes.
There's a lot to body language. There's a reason why, and it's not because they're in the Illuminati or whatever it's called. There's a reason why all politicians stand like this. Because it makes them stand a certain way, and it's open and non-threatening. Yep. Because it does create, body language is what's something like 80% of our hidden. When you talk,
subconscious.
Yeah. You actually take 80% of someone's body language before they talk. Something like that. It's something crazy like that. Don't quote me on it. But it's something like that. And I like that quote. Again, Arnold Schwarzenegger said another thing similar to that. He said, the only difference between you and me is 2 reps. He's like, you quit 2 reps too short. That's the only difference.
Yep.
And I learned that when I was 16, and it's stuck with me. It's probably one of my favorite quotes, and I've never been able to implement it. But yeah, it's always stuck with me.
That's good. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see this all come to fruition and grow more than it already is. Are there any last things that you sort of want to say?
Reach out. If you want help, reach out. Actually, I've got a question for you both. I did a podcast last week called The Anxious Black Belt, and he said he got asked it on a podcast, so he's paying it forward. So I'm going to do the same. If you had 2 core values each, what would they be?
You can start, Ben.
2 core values, what would they be?
Yeah, I thought it was a ripper question, and why.
Ambition and discipline.
Why?
They just come to mind. There's probably some others. But for the minute, that's, if you are disciplined and you're ambitious, you can achieve anything.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in motivation because one of my old business partners drummed this into me. She's fantastic. And she was just like, motivation is absolute, just write it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need motivation if you're disciplined.
That's it.
Yeah.
So if you are disciplined, you will do what you say you can do, right? And if you are smart enough to build a plan and you have discipline, you can execute a plan.
Yeah.
If you're ambitious enough, you'll bake that plan way more than you probably can achieve at that point.
Mm-hmm.
If you're disciplined, you'll learn to be able to get the skills what you need to be able to execute on that. So ambition and discipline.
Yeah. What about you?
What core values are there out there? Yeah, discipline will definitely be a huge one. But a second, I don't know.
While you're thinking about it, I'll say my 2 were authenticity. I chose authenticity because who wants to go through life not being authentic?
Yeah.
Who wants to go through life wearing a mask? If you're wearing a mask, you can't connect with people. If you can't connect with people, you're going to feel alone in a room full of people. And you're just not going to have a good time. So it took me a long time to learn that, being authentic, but that's probably one of the big ones. And the other one, I can't remember what I chose for the other one. Did you think of one yet?
No. I was about to finish.
What was the other one?
It's interesting on the authenticity piece. I mean, I know I've been there, trying to be someone that I wasn't. I did it for a long time.
Yeah.
And you get tired. And I know I've seen people that have gone a lifetime. I haven't obviously known them a lifetime, but you can tell, they've been that person forever. And, if you look at someone in the eye long enough and have the right body language and stuff like that, the real people will come out. And they're so much happier.
Yeah. Well, if you're wearing a mask, you're not being yourself, which means you have to pretend to be somebody else. And that's draining. So that's why people get tired. You end up like that sonar on a ship, you're always looking for danger, because the reason why you can't be authentic is because you're insecure. So if you're insecure, you're worried about what's going to happen, how people are going to perceive you, how people are going to judge you. And that's got to be tiring. I thought of my other one. There was integrity. Because if you've got integrity, it probably means you don't lie, which means you don't have to remember things that you've done, things that you've said, so you don't get tired and drained. It means you do the right thing when people aren't looking, and it just holds yourself to a really good standard. I think a lot of things, mental health wise, can come off authenticity and integrity.
So one would be empathy, I reckon.
See?
Yeah. I'm very empathetic to people. Oh, it's just something that, as a kid, that was drawn into me. That's just me. I don't know how to say why I'd choose that one, but it's just that one. Yeah.
That's a good one to choose.
It is, yeah. Better than not having empathy and being one of those other people.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they come in, especially to see us, they always say they hate feelings. They can't stand emotions and that sort of thing. And I'm like, they're just emotions. Just sit with it. It's literally not going to kill you. It might feel like it is in that moment. It might feel like it's all encompassing, and you're in the shadows of it. But in reality, it's just an emotion.
God, that yesterday has caught me. I was so frustrated. I was very, very, let's label it, angry yesterday. Yeah. I was trying to achieve something in Facebook. I was putting some money behind a video as an ad, and I couldn't, for the life of me, get this one thing in the payment to work. Nothing in what I did. I spent 45 minutes on it and I was so frustrated. I was like, what am I doing? I just need to walk away from this problem.
Yeah.
Is it going to kill me right now if I don't do this? No. Is it, does it need to be done today? No. I'm just going to walk away. Funnily enough, came in this morning. It's all fixed.
I find that's a really hard thing for me.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm sure it is for you too. I'll have an idea like this morning, and I have to implement it today, because if I don't do it, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen.
Yep.
But the problem is I have 400 a day. Every time I pick my partner up from work, I'm like, I've got something to tell you. And she's like, what have you thought of now? Every day, every single day.
Yeah.
And that's a skill. It's a proper skill, learning to be able to say, I don't have to do this now. It can wait until tomorrow.
It's hard to learn on your own. You learn very quickly when you have a team.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did. Like I've always been a mess with my own as a solo operator.
Yeah.
Now I'm fortunate enough to have a team. The team has said to me, we love what you're doing. No, we're not telling you to stop. We're just saying you don't have any choices now. Anytime you want to do something, you got to ask us. So I have this whole filter that it just goes through the team. They're like, that's a great idea, but we're not going to do it. I'm like, okay.
Well, that's funny you say that, because that's what we were hoping you were going to be for us.
Throw it to me. I'll throw it to the team.
That we literally had that conversation.
Yeah.
That's good. You need something like that.
Yeah.
You just need more eyes on your ideas. I mean, I know I've got a friend who actually has an office just over the road, and he's in the software space, right?
Yeah.
And most people come to him and are like, oh, you just signed this NDA, my idea, it's the greatest thing ever, and I just can't have you stealing it. And he refuses to sign contracts.
Yeah.
Fun tip out there, never sign a contract if you don't need to. Like most people won't actually make you sign a contract. But anyway, yeah, people come to him all the time with these ideas, and they're thinking that their idea is the thing that is going to make this whole thing work.
Yeah.
And he's like, absolutely, it means nothing. Without action and the ability to execute and execute well, your idea means nothing. Yeah. And so share it around with people, and if you have enough people that are interested in it, it'll light a fire under your ass to get it done.
Yeah. And that's one of those things everyone's like, don't tell anyone. Just do it in silence until, it's a big thing. That is the stupidest advice that I hear people say. If I have an idea, I tell everybody, because it means that I have to do it, or it looks like I'm talking shit.
And
it holds me accountable.
That's it. And you're probably a little bit competitive by nature as well.
Yeah.
So, like, if you tell someone, they're like, hey, that's a good idea, I might look into that. You're like, oh, no, you won't. No, you won't. I'm going to get it done tomorrow. So it buys you up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a thought process that I have. Like, there's a lot of stoicism out there that always says that stuff. Do it in the background, do it in the darkness, and then explode and, have everyone look at you like you're awesome and stuff like that. I'm like, bullshit. Or that other advice where it's, you can't have your foot in both places. So quit your job so that way you really focus on your business. Another stupid idea. Have your job and work on your business until your business pays enough money that you can leave your job. So that way you're not stressing your head off.
Yep.
Slowly do it.
I've on both pathways there. I can speak to both of those.
It's always those extreme black and white ways of thinking, all or nothing. So that's actually a trauma response, but it just gets carried over into these, mental health gurus that haven't really done much mental health stuff themselves, other than just pinpoint focus at something and run at it. But then what happens is that thing eventually goes away, like everything does. Your focus changes, but then that creates a void again. So if you want to stop getting into voids, you need to create something within yourself. It's all good to aim at these things, but you need to build a life of yourself out of these pinpoint focuses.
Mm. It's interesting. It's interesting the pathways we go on.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, you've tried both ways. It's all trial and error.
100%.
Yeah. Midge Long's been going for 4 years now. And this week we've discovered two big problems that have been there from the start that probably proper business people would pick up straight away.
Yeah.
And they're problems that we've been discussing for 4 years too, but we just didn't really know what to do with it. And it's all come to a head after 4 years and we're like, damn it. So like we've been pretty hard on ourselves. Well, no, I am anyway, like, and stressing pretty hard. But we've learned it ourselves, and we've learned it the hard way. And once we get through this, this is the growth period.
Yep.
You come out stronger the other side of it.
Exactly right.
That's good.
So I guess that's a good point to end on. If you're going through something tough now, ask yourself what you can learn from this situation. Because if you learn from it, it wasn't a waste. Yep. And if you can find something to learn from it, it helps you move through it.
Definitely.
It gives us a bit of a sense of meaning and purpose to it.
Definitely. Well, just to close off, where can people find the Mental Health Militia?
Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're pretty social.
That's it.
And there's always links with Complete Health Geelong or my personal page, Troy Conchies. I think you've got a LinkedIn right under you.
So sure. Either way, it's been the work for like 4 years, but yeah, I get that.
It's exciting.
Yeah. What about yourself? Where can everyone find your stuff?
You can find the studio at Geelong Photo Studio. We've got a website. We're all across socials. Recreate Australia. You can find us across all socials. And then we've got our personal brands. So It's Been Cook across all socials. And then the only other person to look up inside of Recreate would probably be Eric Delpaz. He's got quite a large network across all the socials as well. But yeah, we're pretty active along a lot of spots.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If anyone's out there that wants to donate a product or service or some time to help us achieve our goals, get in touch.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at, I suppose, taking more people on and making this more than just us.
Yeah.
Because as you said, collaboration is key.
That's it. Cool.